Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello and good morning everyone. Welcome to this podcast. My name is Tiara Anggraini, but you can call me Tiara. My faculty is Teacher Training and Education and my program is English Education. I am a student of Sriwijaya University. My student number is 06011382126 Okay, in today's episode, I will talk about two review podcasts. So these two podcasts are so interesting to review it and make us become more knowledgeable. So let's check it out. So first podcast is from All Ears English Podcast. So I would like to show you about the opening this podcast.
This is an All Ears English Podcast, episode 12, Deep Thoughts Thursday. Welcome to the All Ears English Podcast, where you'll finally get real native English conversation. Now here are your hosts, Lindsay the Fan, the English adventurer, and Gabby Wallace, the language angel, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts, USA.
So that's the opening from that podcast, All Ears English Podcast. So All Ears English Podcast, episode 12, talk about what can Einstein teach you about learning English. So this podcast has the duration about 3 minutes and 38 seconds. So this podcast has two speakers. Their names are Lindsay McMahon from the English Adventurers and Gabby Wallace from the Language Angel. So they are from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. So this podcast tell about they give two great quotes from Albert Einstein and Michael Jordan. So Albert Einstein said that anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried a new thing new. And Michael Jordan said that I don't know, like 1,000 and 1,000 of mistakes. So these two podcasts are similar meaning to inspire us. So what is the meaning from two quotes Albert Einstein and Michael Jordan to relate our topic? What can Einstein teach you about learning English? So if we relate to that topic podcast is it's okay when you are studying English and make a mistake. The perfect mistake will give a perfect and wonderful day. It's normal in learning if we make a mistake. And Lindsay give an example to make us to think again in learning. When she was a kid, Lindsay was learning to ski and she said to her father that she is so happy because she didn't fall that day. But her father responds so different with her expectation that her father said like this: "What, you didn't fall? That's triple." So we will ask. And we have a question. Why her father says like that? Why isn't he happy to hear that? Because his child didn't fall that day. Because why her father respond like that? Because when her kids isn't falling, so she never learns and never wants to improve better than before. When you never make a mistake, you don't push yourself to learn or try new thing in learning. At the end of this podcast, Lindsay and Gabby have a question for us about how to maximize our time and learn English as quickly as possible and as easily as possible. So Lindsay and Gabby give several tips for us to learn English, such as the first one, they give a free ebook for us to learning English. And then second podcast, two tips from them to give as a gift for loyal listener of the All Ears English Podcast video YouTube. So what is the moral can we take from this podcast? So the moral that we can take from this podcast is it's okay. We already have a mistake in learning once, twice, or three times, or many times. It's okay. Because why? We will learn from that mistake to try hard again in new concept, new thing. So we will improve ourselves to be better, and we know our progress to get high level if we already have been in level 1. We must next to level 2, level 3 until higher level. So that's the review from the first podcast. And then the second podcast from BBC Learning English, the English we speak. So this podcast usually talk about simple English phrases or piece of slang in 3 minutes podcast. So it will give us two speaker. So there are two speaker conversations and give the example, some example to make us understand easily in that a new word or a sentence that are unfamiliar from us. So I would like to show you about the opening this podcast.
Welcome to this podcast from the BBC World Service. Please let us know what you think and tell other people about us on social media. Podcasts from the BBC World Service are supported by advertising. This is a download from BBC Learning English. To find out more, visit our website.
So that's the opening of that podcast from BBC Learning English. So the topic of BBC Learning English podcast today is doom scrolling. So this podcast has the duration about 2 minutes and 47 seconds. So this podcast has two speakers between Wei Wei and Rob. So what is the podcast talk about? So the first conversations when Wei Wei and Rob will start the podcast, such as present a programs. She looks at Rob that he doesn't focus in that podcast because Rob addicted to see all the depressing news on his smartphone. The addicted made Rob becomes worried and depressions. So Veve becomes angry because she always listen many depression news. So she talks to him to make it stop. Because Rob always tell many times about bad news. So Veve says like this: enough doom scrolling. When Veve says that word, it's so unfamiliar for Rob, and he asks to her, "What is the meaning from that word, Veve?" So after that, Veve explained to Rob about what is the meaning doom scrolling, and then give several example of doom scrolling. And then so we got it a new word and meaning from Vivi that doom scrolling is continuously scrolling through endless bad news on our smartphone from applications or social media or internet that make us obsessed, and we cannot stop reading it. And the last make us depression because we just see bad news, bad information, and then that makes us not happy and then become worried too. So many doom scrolling in coronavirus pandemic because all of people are panic attack in that conditions. At the end, after Wei gives the explanations and example, Rob understands, so he only reads good information on his phone, and they call as joy scrolling or happy scrolling to call good news or happy news because you are happy to see and read news, not depression again. So the moral lesson that we take from this podcast is the first one: if you want to read news, it's okay if that news make us shocked like pandemic COVID-19 news, but don't make us become obsessive to read all of that news on your phones or you read like the article that holds because why? Because when you are depression, it will be not too good for your health. You will be become worry, and then become afraid or negative thinking about that news, and then you will be sick because you always think about bad news in your mind. And then the second one, just think positive one in this condition pandemic to make sure your condition become good. And then the third, you must use your phone or smartphone become a smart person. That what is the purpose of the phone, and then remind the advantage and disadvantage phones or social media or internet, so you will effective user of smartphone. The point you must understand about which one is good for you and which one is the bad for you. If the bad, don't do it again, but if good for you, like give a good feeling for you and make it a mood booster for you, it's okay. You can see or read that news, but if that news make you become depressions or stress or worried, afraid, I think just make sure you don't read that news. And then the last, we got new unfamiliar words. That the first one, we never know what is the meaning of unfamiliar words. So there are doom scrolling. So doom scrolling that already tell us that continuously scrolling through at least bad news or bad information on our smartphone or social media or internet that make us obsessed and make us depressions. And then there are joy scrolling and happy scrolling. So good news or happy news information. So everybody, thank you for your attention. If I have a mistake, I'm so sorry. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.